Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Ghosts and Spirits video. As promised, I was going to do another video here based on your suggestions. Thank you for the very good reception and thank you notes on the first video that I did the other day, the one on the Bell Witch. I hope it gave everybody here a good idea essentially of what I'm going to be doing with this series throughout future videos, and this is good because this will allow me to take a break from some of the other two more popular series, the Cryptids and Monsters and the Urban Legends. And if everything goes as planned, essentially what I'll be doing is I'll focus, let's say, a week or two on one set, which in this case is the Ghosts and Spirits. Then I'll do the Cryptids and Monsters series, and then I'll do the Urban Legends series. And that way, as I cycle through each series, it'll give each one a good rest. And then that way, whenever we come back to each other's series, then it'll be fresh and original. So good stuff there. And of course, I'll intermingle all the other stuff that I talk about, the Godzilla podcast, the Ninja Turtle podcast, the Punisher stuff, and so on. So this one is a very good suggestion. Never heard of this one before. Not too much information to talk about, but the reason why I picked it was because the whole basis of it is very fascinating. And what I'm talking about here is the incident known as the Ghost Writer or the Polaroid Ghost Writer. It's a fascinating thing having to do with a notion, and this happened a little bit of a couple of decades back in the early 90s. This Polaroid Ghost Writer was something in LA, living in an LA house, that was able to communicate with the people living there through their Polaroids. And also the reason why I picked this was because with this happening in the early 90s, this was obviously nowhere near the time period that Photoshop was existing. So the photos that you're going to see here are the real deal. I mean, it's kind of hard to think how these things could be manipulated. Maybe, they could be done while the picture was developing, but the fact that there were others there at the same time during several investigations using their own Polaroid cameras too, which I'll explain here in a minute, discredits the notion that people were faking it. I mean, this has to be something that is beyond science, something beyond words to describe. So here's what happened. Again, this was back in the early 90s, somewhere around 1993, and what happened was there was a family that was living there in LA. Specifically, I think it was like a plush part of LA. It was a location where it's more exclusive, and at this location, they started to see and hear that there was something going on. The location was a place called Mount Washington, and the home, what they were seeing and hearing was things usually attributed to ghosts, like the usual sounds, the usual knocks, the cold feelings, the chilling sensations. And being the family, that it piqued their interest, they decided to try to take a picture as soon as they felt like, let's say, another cold spot. And when they did so, they had a Polaroid. That being the early 90s, that was one of the more common cameras to have around. And when they did so, they started to see some strange things appearing within the Polaroid itself. You'll see this picture here. This is supposedly the actual entity itself. It's something. It's either a man or it's a woman or some kind of ghost of some sort that was there or residing there with the family. And it wasn't malevolent, it wasn't evil, it wasn't doing anything bad. All it was doing was it was trying to get their attention. I don't know why necessarily. Maybe they were just trying to make sure that they wanted to let the residents know, hey, you're not the only ones living here. But however it worked, it helped. I mean, it actually did help the ghost in communicating with the people that lived there. And eventually it got to the point where the people that lived there decided, after seeing and taking several pictures of just inanimate blobs of wisps of whatever smoke appearing on the film, they decided, let's go ahead and let's see if we can try to actually communicate. Somebody thought up that idea. And so throughout a series of photos, one of them finally asked, and this was the first question apparently, one of them finally asked, is he here now? And he did this while he was taking a picture of one of the spots. And maybe it was just spur of the moment type thing, like maybe he was talking to his wife or his girlfriend and asking her instead of the ghost, is he here now? But the timing of it allowed so that when the Polaroid came out right after he asked that, sure enough, they just started to see something on the film, and it was the word yes. And it's this picture here. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but you can kind of see it You'll see the Y towards the left of that funny looking statue in the middle of the photo, and then you'll see the E, and then you'll see the S towards the right of it. But that was the very first circumstance where the ghost actually communicated with the people there. Obviously, with that positive response and the fact that this thing was actively communicating with them, they decided to, going forward, take more Polaroids, a whole bunch of them, and at the same time ask questions beforehand. In a strange way, this was before anything having to do with all the electronic machinery or whatever that ghost hunters use nowadays. Obviously, on the show Ghost Adventures, I mean, they have a whole assortment of electronic equipment that they carry with them. They have that thing where it emits, like it goes through 1,000 frequencies every couple of seconds, like a radio frequency of some sort, and it picks up words that the ghosts are trying to say. They also have stuff on the show where when they ask a question, then the word will actually come up as an electronic display on a screen of some sort. He was even Zach was even walking around one time with like a virtual headset of some sort, and then that way the words would come up on his view screen at the very same time that he was walking around. And then of course the most famous one, or the most common one, has to do with them having one of those electronic voice recorders, and they would ask, they wouldn't hear anything at the same time, but when they would play it back after they asked the question, then normally something would come up. All of that stuff is common now, but here back in 1993 it was not. And so what they were using essentially was a very early precursor to all the electronic equipment that all the other ghost hunters use now. But they did this for throughout 1,000 photos. Can you believe that? There were more than 1,000 Polaroid photos taken by these residents, and every single one of them with the hope of some kind of message appearing. Now, did they get a message in all of them? Probably not. But they had enough to start something that was very interesting that I'll talk about here in a few minutes. Now, real quickly, as far as proving that these are not fake, obviously with the idea of a Polaroid, whenever it's fresh out of the camera, you can write on it, you can scratch on it. People have done it by accident, and the stuff sticks to the film itself, so it appears in the photograph afterward. So in order to try to discern and make sure that this was not fake, they would bring in a whole bunch of people, psychics, investigators, paranormal hunters, the usual stuff that's involved in this field, and every single one of them would come by and they would try it themselves. They would also bring their own Polaroid cameras, because they wanted to make sure that nobody within the family's residence was making these things up on their own, and they weren't going to use the family's equipment. They would use their own equipment to doubly make sure that this stuff was not being faked. And then sure enough, whenever they would take their own pictures using their own Polaroid cameras, the very same thing would occur. There would be some messages or some more mysterious wisps of that white stuff. Some people call it ectoplasm within the film itself. There was even a psychic that would come out, and he was somebody that was able to discern, and this is all, again, pretty much out there. I don't know about psychics, but I'm just putting the information here. This guy was by the name of Peter James. He was called in to try to explore exactly what was going on there. He visited the house, and after going through the house itself, he believes that the house, the reason why all of this stuff was happening and all the communications were going on, was because it was on the grounds of some kind of ancient ritual site. It sounds a little bit cliche. It's the usual stuff you hear in movies whenever a house is being haunted. Is because it's on some kind of Native American land or some kind of graveyard or some other type of ancient site of some sort. So in this case, with this happening with this family too, it sounds a little cliche, but that's what he said. He said it was something involving a spiritual vortex, a doorway of some sort, with the spirits coming and going inside the house. And it's just but for the fact that these people happen to live there in that residence, that's why they're experiencing all of this. In fact, there was one incident where he said, and this is his quote, or at that very moment he said, "I'm getting a tingling sensation. It's very cold here. My legs are trembling. It feels like something is coming from below, and it's going through my entire body." So the family right then and there took a picture of the Polaroid, and it's what you see here. And there's all this stuff circling this guy right then and there, and it has to do with the very same moment that he was describing all of this occurring. So with regards to all of the photographs, everything that they've accumulated, again, over 1,000 of these photographs exist. The family decided that they wanted to, I guess, share this with the community there, with LA. And so what they did is they actually held one of those open houses, not really like an open house, but it's like an open exhibition of some sort. It's the kind where you set up a date, you set up a time, you put these, in this case the Polaroids, up on the wall, and then you bring and invite people over, and it's a place to mingle, it's a place to have a couple of drinks, some light snacks, the usual stuff that the arts community is most commonly known for whenever they comes to exhibiting their artwork. But in this case, it had to do with the Polaroids. And I saw that there was, throughout the internet, that this has happened over several years. So this family just didn't just do it once. They have it so that it's happened over several years. And for example, here's the pictures of some, and you'll see that the exhibit pretty much had the photographs hanging on the wall, and these were the original Polaroids. These aren't copies of the Polaroids, they're the real deal. And so you could come, you could look at them, take pictures of them, and then probably hang out with some of the family members there, and probably have like a Q&A session afterwards to see and hear what's going on. The family even took the other proactive step where I found a link where they have everything in terms of like an electronic book. It's called Seeing Things, and they call it Ghost Polaroids, and it's located on MagCloud, and it seems to be something as far as you could either buy like a digital copy of it and see a good listing, I think it's hundreds of these pictures all at once, or you could buy the print itself and that way get it shipped to you. But they have this as well open for others to purchase. So fascinating stuff. I'm trying to see if there was any more recent one. The most recent one I saw was back in 2012, so it's not too far off. Most likely, of course, they're going to have something else coming soon with the popularity of this. So that's the interesting story. This ghost writer, whoever this ghost was, or ghosts plural, were, I can't see or hear if any information as far as if that family is still experiencing it, or even if they even live there, because there seems to be no current information right now, other than the fact that if they have another exhibit soon and they reveal new information about themselves and whether the house is even still there or if it's occupied by them or someone else, it's still open up, pretty much up and in the air right now. So if anyone knows any information on that, it'd be fascinating to hear. So has anyone else heard about this particular entity, this ghost writer? Anything involving more information, the address, where it's located, if the family is there, please post those comments. It'd be great to share with everybody here, so that way everybody can get an up-to-date status of this particular entity. But yeah, that's my second video here for my Ghosts and Spirits series. You'll probably notice that I'm alternating between like the really popular ones like the Bell Witch and then this one, which is more of an unknown one, and it's good. I'm trying to see if I can tie this in with my Cryptids and Monsters series, where every now and then I'll talk about the major all-star ones, and then I'll focus on the more smaller unknown ones, probably more predominantly those, so that way those can be shared with you as fans and make sure that everybody enjoys more of the unknown ones. So alright everybody, thanks again as always, take care.